the real truth about decluttering is not really getting rid of stuff. It's not how you organize things. It's not about how many towels you keep. It's not about whether your house is okay for you or it's not. It's not never about that, right? My clients, I tell them, you don't really want to declutter. And they're like, well, I do. And I always say, no, like you think you do, but actually what you really want is to start trusting yourself again, loving yourself again, and be in that deep inner peace and balance that no matter what happens, you've got your own back. You love yourself through it. You trust yourself through it. You hold yourself through it. So it doesn't really matter whether you keep 5 towels or 20, right? It's not the checklist.
Healing was the warm-up. This is the main fucking event. Welcome to Go Regulate Yourself, the unapologetic, unfiltered love letter you didn't know you needed. This is where mental health meets real life, where growth gets gritty, and where we stop pretending healing makes us saints. Think of it like therapy with tequila shots and a side of tough love. In this space, we're learning how to take responsibility for our shit, face the chaos of life, and become the best version of who we are. So if you're ready for your weekly "what the fuck am I doing" moment, let's dive in. Hello, Reg Babes. Welcome back to another Fridays with Friends episode on the Go Regulate Yourself podcast. I am about to introduce you to our next guest, and whoa, is this a cool journey we take together. We are talking about something a little unorthodox, but totally up my alley, and my hope is that it inspires you to make some changes in your life. So Dorota Kuldo helps women break the hidden clutter loops that keep chaos recreating itself. After clearing 70% of her belongings while working 2 full-time jobs, she uncovered the missing piece. Clutter is a nervous system pattern, not a motivation problem. Her work focuses on regulation, responsibility, and ending survival-driven cycles so change actually lasts. And if you know me, you know the podcast, you know my background, this is right up my alley. So we are talking about some really cool stuff today, and I cannot wait for you to hear what she has to say. So without further ado, let's dive on in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Fridays with Friends episode on the Go Regulate Yourself podcast. My name is Ryan. I am your host, and I am joined by an incredible soul today who is going to bring a very fiery conversation to the podcast. And I am so excited to dive in because it is very aligned with my lifestyle, how I live, and what I have been doing for the last 4 or 5 years. And I think you guys are going to resonate with this on a really, really deep level. So without further ado, Dorota, how are you doing today?
I'm really good. Super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You are more than welcome. I'm so excited for our conversation. Now, I've let you know this, and my listeners are all familiar with this. I really like to start off on a more fun note before we dive into the deeper stuff in the podcast. So I would love to know, what is your go-to swear word and why?
I don't really swear. I try not to. I don't know why. It's just not very natural to me, but I do sometimes sneak in a cheeky maybe fuck, or maybe like anything, like a combination of phrases where you can add fuck inside.
Yes.
Like a get fucked or like whatever, right? It's just like putting that in there rather than just using the word itself. It's always, I don't know, like a little bit exciting.
I am the opposite. I have a total potty mouth, and swears are definitely part of my main vocabulary. As you can see, my cup here is my favorite thing on the whole planet. And I really do love a lot of swear words, but fuck probably has to be one of my top ones. And it is something that I think most of us tend to lean towards in our lives. It can be added to anything, and it helps to get a lot of that anger or frustration out when we're really feeling it. So
yeah, and it doesn't really mean anything sometimes. It's just like a comma in the conversation. I have actually a really funny story with the word that you are holding. It used to be my favorite word, like of all, but I got in a lot of trouble by saying this word at the work conference, and I was like, I got like a little bit tipsy. I don't remember much, but I almost got fired by because
Oh
of
my
that. So I was like,
gosh.
oh, okay, maybe work is not a great place to use that.
Yet that is absolutely fair. And I guess moving into your own company, you have more freedom to be able to use it.
Yeah.
And for those of our listeners who aren't seeing this on a video and are listening to the podcast, as you know, my favorite cup in the whole wide world is spelt cunt. It is my favorite word. And I have too used it in situations where I have gotten in trouble. And I like to have the freedom to be able to express myself and not be tied
Mm,
to a career or workplace. So
exactly.
I
Yeah.
get that. I feel that. Amazing. Okay, so for our listeners who don't already know who you are, can you take a moment to introduce yourself? Let us know a little bit about you, where you're from, and what exactly it is that you do.
Yeah, sure. I am a decluttering coach. And this is literally my biggest passion and something that I'm just so deeply connected to it and helping women move past the clutter. There is such a huge amount of people in the world that right now struggle with clutter, and having struggled with this myself, I understand the ins and outs a little bit more, because I have had opportunity. I like to call it an opportunity to have been drowning in clutter for a long time. So now I get to help women declutter. I live in Europe right now. Couple years ago, I moved back to Poland. I lived in England for a very long time, and then a couple years ago, I moved back to Poland. I sort of quit my entire life in England, and I decided, okay, I want to pursue this as a business, as an opportunity. And moving back with my parents was actually a very smart financial decision, because I sold my business. I literally just moved overseas to pursue this passion. And 4 years later, I'm still here going strong, and I just love what I do so much.
Oh, I love that. Europe, definitely on my bucket list. I have not been to too many places. I have so many places I want to travel, but in the summer when it's warmer, Canada
Yeah. Oh my
winters are not the
gosh.
best time to be traveling.
I was walking my dog today. It was -7, but it felt like -17. At least that's what the weather app said. And like my cheeks were literally like I was being stabbed with needles, right? And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just so freaking cold. It's nice and warm in the house. We have the fireplace going. It's super nice, but yeah, winter is can be cold.
Yeah, definitely not the time I want to be there. I want to be there when I can be in shorts,
Yeah, unless you go skiing, then knock yourself out.
Fair enough. If you're able to enjoy it, all the power to you.
Yeah.
Now, I want to know, just based on your introduction, based on what you've shared in our conversations before we were recording for the podcast, the topic of decluttering coach. Now, this to me feels like such a niche market and industry, and I am so curious. How did you actually fall into this? Can you walk us back to the beginning of where it all started?
Yeah, it was a combination of two things that happened. One thing was I was literally at the rock bottom when it comes to like clutter in my home, when it all sort of the idea sort of sprouted in my head. And I remember sitting at the edge of my bed thinking, how the fuck did that even happen? Like, I'm high achiever. I've run my own business. I worked in corporate really successfully. I won awards. Like everyone in the job or whatever jobs I did in the past always came to me for advice. I was always organized. I was always like, whatever, right? High achiever. And here I am in the house that's like a trash can, literally, right? So how did that, like, I couldn't understand where it went wrong, right? But also in the same time, because that was pandemic 2020, I had a cleaning business at the time, so the shame for me of, it was just like triple, right? And also at the same time, I learned that there is such a thing as online education. I kind of knew that it kind of, existed, but I think it wasn't until I decluttered my home and I realized, I also joined lots of groups and things like that for decluttering. And I was like, okay, I managed to declutter 70% of my stuff in 6 months, right? I worked 15 hours a day and I managed to do that in that
Wow.
time. And also in the same time, I realized, okay, I think I cracked something here because I feel great. I didn't burn myself out. It finally worked. It never went back to, all those years later. Now, my room was always, prior to this, my room was always the worst. Mountains of stuff. When I would get ready to go out, the whole closet was on the floor and it would stay there for weeks. Whereas now, my room never gets messy. Not because I don't have a lot of stuff. I still have stuff, but it just never does. So I sort of put those two things together, and I figured, why not? Why not help other women as well?
Feels like in the moments where we feel like we're at our rock bottom is where we learn all of the things that we need to have in order to create that ripple effect for the world. And I love what you said about the fact of feeling shame because you had a cleaning business and yet your life looked like it was full of clutter. Well, I feel like for most of us that fall into a particular career, it's like the sayings when they say mechanics have the worst cars, or I was a nurse and we'd always say nurses are the worst patients. You're spending so much of your time caring for others that we often forget to care for ourselves. And it does create those loops of burnout and other problems showing up in different areas of our life.
Yeah.
So if we can find, that secret thing that's going to help us be able to improve our lives and take care of ourselves, then we're going to create more of an impact for our clients and for the people that we're hoping to inspire. So I love all of that. I also resonate really deeply with what you shared because my husband and I, as I said at the beginning, my audience is familiar with this, sold our house, everything that we owned back in 2021. And our goal was to leave Canada. At the time, we thought we were leaving permanently, but it ended up being 6 months a year that we've been traveling since then. And we wanted to become minimalists. We wanted to let go of everything, see the world, experience different cultures, and ultimately witnessed a lot of people in our lives not making the most of the time that they have on earth. And we didn't want to be trapped in that. And when we're speaking to that journey, I mean, at first, letting go of our house and letting go of everything that we had was really freaking difficult. I mean, for years and years before that, I had so much clutter in our home. But when our priorities shifted and we started to recognize what we actually wanted is to take care of ourselves, to be connected to each other, and to be free, it was a lot easier for us to let those things go. So I'm curious to know, as somebody who would purge and then I guess you can say collect the clutter again in your life, and this was a cycle that would repeat, what did your dead plant symbolize to you in your journey? Why was this a moment that clicked and changed things instead of the cycles that had happened before and all the clutter that had stacked up? What did the dead plant do that the clutter was never able to capture?
Clutter was avoidance. I wasn't seeing it. It was just, it was just there, right? Whereas that moment with that plant, it was so funny. Like now I laugh and I smile every time when I close my eyes and look at about the situation, because I literally just went to pick it up. I killed it as per, overwatered it, whatever, right? And I think it was there for like a good month or something before I actually mastered not the courage, but just like emotional capacity to get rid of it, right? I was like, okay, you have to go. Grabbed it, muddy water just spilled everywhere. And it was just sort of this moment where when I realized that I cannot keep going like it was everywhere. The water was everywhere. I was filthy. And yeah, I was just like, it was just the last straw, right? It wasn't a single moment that happened, that made it happen, but it was just like a collection of a lot of things that led to this dead plant that it changed my life. Because also in that moment, I understood what people are really going through when they cannot change, when they want to, they have dreams, goals and desires, right? But there is this block, right? And that really on a deeper level helped me understand that it's not that people are lazy, gross or disgusting, because that's how I felt about myself. There is something there that's preventing us from taking that step. And it all sort of like clicked for me. And that is just like the rest is history.
I can understand those pivotal moments when we feel like we hit our breaking point and all of a sudden we are changing things from a very deep soul level in ways that we had never been able
Yeah.
to before or been successful in doing before. And I absolutely love this for you. So I know that you have spoken about a hidden clutter loop. Can you talk to us about what exactly this means from a nervous system perspective?
Yeah, so the hidden loop is actually the nervous system response. So I, through work with my clients, I managed to sort of come up with those 4 responses. They correlate with nervous system freeze, fight, flight, and fawn, right? But there is a pattern how each of those responses show up in not only our body from the nervous system standpoint, but also in our home and how we approach dealing with clutter, and whether we are, if not aware, able to break that loop, or if we continuously stay in that loop, right? So we have fight, flight, fawn, and freeze, and it's different to each of those responses, how we approach it. Can you spot the loop? If you can, then you can break it. That's sort of how I explain this, how I approach this.
Okay. So, for somebody who wonders if they might be in a clutter loop, what is something that they might want to look for or to recognize? Like, say, they have a fight response with clutter. What would be some of those cues or clues for them to look at?
Fight response is my favorite. Fight response is when you, let's say, you look at your clutter and you feel so much rage that you just grab a trash bag and just get rid of everything, right? You feel this ruthless purging, right? If I hear literally, there are some people out there who coaches, decluttering coaches, who say like you have to ruthlessly purge everything. That is the biggest fucking bullshit ever, because that's only going to make your nervous system response even stronger, and the loop is going to just deepen even more, right? So the fight response is you want to burn your house down. That's what it is. If you feel this, have to regulate, because there is a lot of regret that happens after, a lot of guilt as well for getting rid of stuff that maybe we didn't want to get rid of. The other one, which is very, very common, and actually most of my clients have sort of signs of this, is the overwhelmed organizer. That's how I named it, right? So this is the freeze response of the nervous system. And the signs to look out for is where you have to like organize yourself before you touch a single thing. So maybe you grab pen and paper and have to plan out perfectly. Maybe you buy planners, organizers, things like that. And all of that, basically that procrastination, right? That's the freeze response. So all of that, what's happening here is your body is like, I'm going to make you think that you're making progress, right? That's what the nervous system says. But actually, you're going to exhaust yourself before you even touch a single thing. So I won, right? Because you didn't declutter. You think you did. That's the most sneaky one. But again, if we are able to spot those little things, then we are able to just, okay, oh, that's what's happening. Isn't that interesting, right? Isn't that interesting? And then we can maybe bypass it. Again, it's not that easy, right? It's not always the awareness, it's not always there. But it can be done with little things, little adaptations. It can be done.
I like that these nervous system responses fit so beautifully in with the decluttering ideologies, because I feel that I could probably have checked off all of the boxes. I mean, we went over freeze and we went over fight, but I'm assuming flight is probably like an avoidance, if I'm not being mistaken.
Yeah, you run away.
I'm like, I can guess that one. So I'm like, I could definitely feel like I could check a lot of those boxes. Out of curiosity, what is Fawn when it comes to nervous system?
So Fawn in general is lay down and play dead, right? So basically it is the response where I call it a sentimental savior. So you feel like you have to keep everything for whatever reason. Most of the time is I cannot upset someone, right? Maybe someone will need it in the future, so I have to keep everything. It's a big one for people pleasers for sure. And it's basically just keeping everything because I spend money on it. What if I need it again? There is this inability not inability, that's maybe the wrong word, but the very strong urge to make everyone around you happy and yourself happy as well, because it's not only about pleasing other people, but it's also about protecting yourself, possibly, because these things are never really true, but we feel like they are true. We make ourselves believe that they are true, that I have to protect myself from the fear, regret, disappointment. So I'd rather keep everything. That's the Fawn response. Yeah.
That makes so much sense. And I would say that that's probably not been as much for me in my journey. The other three, absolutely, at different times. But I can clearly see some people in my life who are in the Fawn response in regards to clutter, for sure. My grandma being one of them. But I love this analogy so much. And I think it helps us to recognize that when our nervous system is out of whack and we're leaning into our triggers and we are maybe not as consciously as aware as we think we are, we feel that we are, this can show up in so many different areas of our life, not just in regards to, you know, how we communicate in relationships and stuff like that, but even down to clutter. Like, that is fascinating to me. I really love this conversation.
Yeah, it is. You know, when it sort of clicked, because I'm obsessed with brain science, right? And when it clicked and I was like, oh my gosh, doesn't this just make so much more sense? Because it's biology, right? We, especially as women, whether we like it or not, we put so much pressure on ourselves, right? It has to be done perfectly. What other people are going to think, the societal expectations, you name it. And also this, right? Also this burden of clutter. And it makes us feel like failures. And, you know, it's okay, because when we realize that it's actually not our fault, it's the biology, right? It's just how we respond. And all that awareness is needed to move past this. It just becomes so much easier without that internal shame.
Yes, I can understand that. So how would a high functioning survival mode in somebody create clutter? Like, especially in those who look like they have it all together on the outside, what is the response? Tell me that.
Oh, I love this question, because here's the thing, right? It's like literally we are talking about me, so hello. Let's talk more. But for high functioning women, the most important part is not being able to set boundaries, right? With stuff and with people. And actually, good news is that if you're able to start setting boundaries with stuff first, That's what I did with stuff first, aka get rid of things, right? What you can and when you can. Then it's easier to also start setting boundaries with people. It gives us this bravery. But in general, being in survival mode, I would say probably 99% of the planet is in survival mode. Is just how the world right now functions, and we don't really realize that a lot of times. I didn't, at least. But for high functioning women, what happens is, because we take care of everything, we are always the last on the list. So if you snap at your children or your husband out of the blue, you already overstimulated. There's already nervous system is way out of whack, right? And clutter, what it does, it adds up to it, because it's yet another thing to do, yet another thing we failed at, quote unquote, right? And also the other thing is that because we take care of everything and everyone, we often come back home to the safety of our own home. And this is actually probably like 95% of my clients right now, my one-to-one clients, they have two lives, right? One perfect life outside, and then there is this like second person living in their own home where every is
Chaos.
just absolute chaos, right? And this internal duality is so hard on them. It's so taxing. And how long can you live like that, really?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I can see this theme in a lot of women that I know, and perhaps even in myself, in the old identities that I've outgrown and have moved away from. But I think that this is very common. And I think that you could probably say that discipline is just survival mode wearing a
Mhm.
socially acceptable costume, right? We think that we need to hustle and we need to force and we need to grind and show up to 110% in everything that we do, but we can't burn the candle at both ends and expect it not to affect us. We do have to figure out how to regulate ourselves, say no, put in boundaries, do all of these things. So, when we're talking about clutter, why does forcing yourself to declutter never work and make the problem worse?
Okay, question is, how many times have you tried and were successful with it, right? And the answer is
Yeah.
probably never, right? Because maybe it worked for a little bit, but then it probably came, all the clutter came back, all of it rebounded, right? So here's the thing, right? I actually got chills when you talked about 110%, white knuckling everything, forcing ourselves to do that, to do all of that, because that's the expectation, right? Men have it easy, right? Men have it so
Mm-hmm.
freaking easy. But we as women, if to be in the society right now, to be successful, respected, and also, proud of ourselves, we feel like we have to do all those things. And on top of it, be on a perfect diet, always hydrated, red light therapy, regulate your nervous system, heal, whatever, right? All those fucking things.
Yeah.
But what my approach to decluttering is, I never ask people to do more. I actually ask them to do less, because that's the only way that's going to work. And, going back to nervous system regulation, right now, I love that nervous system is such a buzzword. I love this because this conversation is needed. But also at the same time, again, we overcomplicate that so much.
Mm.
And the other aspect of it is my approach. I focus on women. I actually have a lot of guys asking me, like, why do you not work with men? And I'm like, because of the questions that you guys ask, right? And it's not that my approach wouldn't work on men, but as women, we need a different way of thinking. There is a way to live a wildly successful life without that hassle, right? And it all starts with one thing: put less on your plate, right? Not do more, but actually say, maybe the only thing that we have to do more as women is to say no. No, thank you. I'll think about it. No, thank you. No, thank you to the freebies. No, thank you to the gifts sometimes, right? No, thank you to extra responsibilities. But that's just like a conversation that we could have for hours, right? Because the way I approach decluttering is actually, it works on all levels of life. It's not just clutter, because clutter is just a surface, it's just a symptom, right?
Mm.
So if there is just one thing that listeners here could take away from the whole conversation, is I would really encourage you to look for things where you can make yourself feel a little better, right? What are the things you can do to make yourself a little better? Because that is the best way to regulate nervous system. Our heart space expands immediately, right? If you love the music, if you love this one song, fucking listen to it, right? All the time. If you love putting your face in the sun for even just 2 seconds, take every opportunity to do that and feel into it, right? Have a coffee from your favorite mug, right? Maybe slow down for just 1 second to drink a little bit slower. Or, if you love McDonald's and you think you shouldn't, just go and fucking get the McDonald's, right?
I'm so in agreement with you right now. I feel like your approach to this, which I love so much, is very similar. My background is in health coaching and trauma coaching, though I've hung up my coach title and I'm no longer doing that. My approach to how I worked with my clients, it was almost identical to how you are working with your clients in this space, because it's not about what you're doing, it's about the energy of which you are doing it.
Yeah.
So if you think about, you said like decluttering from a state of anger or a state of thinking that you have to or you should, it's kind of like the same energy of us trying to change our bodies because we hate it and we don't like what we see in the mirror, versus trying to take care of ourselves because we love our body and we want to see it make it to the end of this lifetime. Totally different energies, different vibes, and will get you completely different results. So I love that that is the foundation for the work that you do. And out of curiosity, say that somebody's sitting there and they have a house full of clutter and they're completely unregulated about it. If their clutter was to disappear overnight, what would they still be avoiding? What would be that missing piece that wouldn't get solved with the clutter going away?
My favorite thing, it's they would be avoiding themselves. Because we cannot, I want to say this in the most loving way, the least triggering as well. Because here's the thing, right? The real truth about decluttering is not really getting rid of stuff. It's not how you organize things. It's not about how many towels you keep. It's not about whether your house is okay for you or it's not. It's never about that, right? The real truth, and it's also quite a hard pill to swallow to most of my clients, and it's just adorable when it clicks. When I say to them, they pay me thousands of dollars, right? And I tell them, you don't really want to declutter. And they're like, well, I do. And I always say, no, you think you do, but actually what you really want is to start trusting yourself again, loving yourself again, and be in that deep inner peace and balance that no matter what happens, you've got your own back. You love yourself through it. You trust yourself through it. You hold yourself through it. So it doesn't really matter whether you keep 5 towels or 20, right? When we outsource all of those decisions to other people, other people's systems, other people's opinions, other people's ideas, it's always going to make it feel like it's not enough, right? And very often, not always, but a lot of times what happens is people get rid of the clutter, but it's never enough. So they get rid of more. They get rid of more and more and more. And then all of a sudden they live with one spoon. That's like exaggeration here. But it's never enough, right? Because we wait for something to tell us, okay, it's okay, you can stop now. Whereas, you know, it's only us who get to decide what we keep and what we let go, right? It's not the internet. It's not the decluttering coach. It's not the decluttering course business method, a checklist. It's not that. It's what matters. It's what we think, and we know that we can trust ourselves through it.
So it reminds me of something completely different, but totally similar at the same time. I have been on a self-love journey, as most of us have, for the last 10 plus years. But 10 years ago, I got breast implants out of wanting to love myself more, be more connected to my feminine, and love my body. And funnily enough, ironically enough, the last 10 years was filled with surgeries and breast implant illness. And most recently, I just got my explant in November of this last year. But the journey of finding self-love, I thought that I wanted to change my body by getting breast implants was never actually about the breast implants. It was always about trusting myself, loving myself, and being connected to myself. So I love that there is the exploration of the deeper meaning, the deeper root, and actually helping to alleviate and or find some space within that zone to heal. Because you're right, it's not actually about the surface level thing that we think it's about. We will see improvement in that area, maybe, and we might get some changes from it that we want to see. But ultimately, it's about the thing, the emotion, the energy that we are looking for in having that thing. So I think
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah. And, one of the most powerful practices that I do with my clients it consists of two things, right? It's sort of also connected with manifestation, right? Because we never want the thing, we want the feeling, right? So I always get my clients, and this is a great practice to anyone as well, to visualize how you would feel when all the clutter is gone, right? How you would feel. And can you find this feeling right now? Right. And I know it can be a little bit challenging to navigate through, especially if we are like, mountains of stuff around us. But there are, and I call it a good feeling menu, and I've already brushed on it, to have some few things, right, that make you feel how you think you'd feel when all that clutter is gone, right? That lightness in your chest, that just like nice fuzzy feeling, like you just want to grab your cat or a dog or your husband or your baby, whatever, and just cuddle, right? Maybe it's a warm tea. It's one of the examples. It's actually, I always mention it because one of my clients, it was last year, she said that this feeling of like just feeling amazing is when she touches concrete with her hands. And I'm like, okay, to me it would be bad, but she finds it really soothing, right? So one of her biggest things was to every single time when there was concrete around her, she would always run her fingers through it, right? And it's all about just finding those little things. Does decluttering need to happen? Decluttering needs to happen. Well, yeah, because just by feeling better, the clutter is just not going to disappear, right? We still need to go through the motion of getting rid of the backlog of stuff. But again, it's all about the state. How you feel matters. And if we, how do I want to say this without like offending anyone? But I feel
you can
like
offend.
okay. Okay, so I feel like when I go on Instagram, and sometimes I don't follow any decluttering accounts because I don't agree with most of that practices, because what it is to me, it's like, the bro marketing style, right? Just fucking hustle more, do more, purge faster, just start small. Okay, but how do I actually do that, right? Because to me, it feels like just declutter or just start small. Okay, but how? But how do I actually do that if even one thing to me is just too much, right? And
Yeah.
maybe maybe it's not really about, well, it is not maybe, but it's not really about how small you start. But do you feel safe enough? Does your nervous system think, okay, I can do it? Or does your nervous system think, oh, fuck you, this is too much. This is too much, too fast. I can't. And it shuts down. So you doom scroll. Doom scrolling is a nervous system response. Watching Netflix for hours is a nervous system response. Avoidance, right? That's the flight response that we didn't really touch too much. But that's that, right? And it can be really, really, really sneaky. But what I want people to understand is that we don't have to go into that exploration, because again, if we only do that, that's avoidance, right? That's the nervous system response. You can do both in the same time. Both could be true in the same time. You can do the exploration of, isn't this interesting that I'm reacting like this, right? What could it mean? But in the same time, on the same day, you can also be getting rid of some things, right? The easy things, the things that don't have any attachment, any feeling, anything that would have hesitation about an item. That's why the lists, the checklists, they don't work. Because you can have a perfect checklist of 100 things, but if you look at it and all it gives you like is anxiety and you just want to like throw up, then it's not going to work, is it?
Yes, that couldn't be more true. I feel that this has been very apparent in our minimalism journey of literally living out of a suitcase and only having so many belongings, because we have to think consciously every time that we purchase something, can this travel with me? Am I able to fit this in my suitcase? Or if I bring this in, what else has to go? And it completely changes how you purchase. And even around Christmas and the holidays, a lot of people tend to allow their nervous systems to run the show and buy a lot of things for themselves or other people. And at the end of it all, they're left broke, they're left frustrated, they're left annoyed, and oftentimes struggling immensely to catch back up in terms of that. So I feel that this has really been an incredible practice for me, and I can completely understand what you're speaking to. But I also think it's really important, because when we talk about nervous system work and we talk about regulating and we talk about paying attention to the body, we also need to acknowledge that there is responsibility to still do things. It's not just a matter of laying down in your bed for the rest of your life and, oh, I'm regulating and, I'm just going to allow my body, my nervous system to catch up. So how do we take responsibility for clutter without turning it into a self-attack or shaming ourselves? What is the middle ground there?
I would say probably the kind in the narrative would be a start. Like, so having compassion to oneself, giving ourselves grace that, yes, this is the situation that I'm in. But also I get to do something about it, right? Because that's taking responsibility where rather than sort of going, well, okay, I'm just so miserable, right? Yeah, okay, you have the clutter, so what, right? So you have it. That's okay, right? But as long as we treat ourselves as our best friend rather than belittle ourselves, because if we start going there, what happens is, I always love this analogy where, you have two friends, right? One of them is the one that's super supportive and, always cheering you on. And the other one is, always just like nagging you, right? And you decide, okay, I want to declutter my home. And you go to this first friend and they go, oh my gosh, I love this, amazing, let's do it. I can help you. I know you can do it, whatever, right? And then you go to the second one and then the second one goes, well, why? You're going to fail anyway. Like, what's the point? Who are you going to be feeling safe going to when something doesn't go the way you planned, right? You'll never go to the second one, the one that basically just told you that you're the worst person on the planet, right? We have to be that person to ourselves. We have to. And by doing that, And it's not always easy. It's not always easy because we are negative by default. Like 80% of the thoughts we have are negative, right? It's never going to work. It doesn't work. I should be done by now. All those things, right? But it's like, but says who? Decluttering is always going to take a long time, way longer than we think, unless we have like a time pressure, moving houses or selling houses, things like that. These sort of help a little bit. So if you want to like sell your house and move to a different country, then I recommend it. Because when you figure out how much it's going to cost you to move all that crap, then you're going to be decluttering really fast. But taking responsibility in a sense of, okay, it's here, it's fine, I can move past this, I can get help if I need to, right? But what's the most important is I know that I'm going to love myself through it and hold myself through it, and just, I cannot get it wrong, right? Because you cannot get it wrong. There is no right or wrong. People often are scared to let go because what if I need it again, right? What if I'll regret getting rid of it? But these are just the excuses that hold us back. And if you really are held back by those questions, those doubts, then you don't have to declutter this item, right? Because no one says you have to. You can, I'm sure there is like a million other things in your home that you can maybe look at.
Beautiful. And I think too, this just kind of reminds me of the fact that clutter, like you said before, isn't just about the clutter itself, it's about other things, but also that clutter ends up ultimately affecting every area of your life and not just the space and the environment itself. So when you lead with love and you treat yourself with love and compassion through the process of it, you're ultimately going to see that spread and ripple into every area of your life outside of just the clutter itself disappearing. So I'm curious for you, having been through this journey and that led you into this work, after you successfully decluttered, what else shifted in your life that you noticed that maybe surprised you, that you weren't expecting?
So many things. There is literally not a one thing in my life right now that wouldn't be here if I hadn't decluttered. First, right off the bat, the bravery and the courage. Like, I used to be a huge people pleaser. That was like my whole thing, right? Being a people pleaser. I had no idea that's what I was doing. Such a toxic personality to have. Yeah. But when I started getting rid of things, and what started happening was, what I noticed actually was that, and a funny thing to all the listeners, I need to tell you, I started with 1 minute a day. That's all I did. Just 1 minute. I didn't have mental capacity, or I didn't even have time. I worked 15 hours a day. So it can be done. But what I noticed was, every single time when I got rid of something that was giving me a little bit of anxiety, like maybe this burnt candle that I didn't like half burnt candle that I didn't like, but I kept it because, candles are just like, oh my gosh. What happened was, the piano didn't drop from the sky when I got rid of it, right? The tornado didn't come and take my house, right? I didn't go homeless. I didn't lose my job, whatever, right? Nothing happened. So I was like, oh, okay. And what happens is, in our brain, you immediate release of dopamine. And when you can repeat that over time, what happens is like, oh, let me see what else can make me feel like this, right? And also, I started setting boundaries with people. It's tiny things, right? But the biggest thing for me, the biggest like eye opener, was when I was like dating this new guy at the time, and I was like in relationships. I would always date 5 different versions of the same loser, right? And just different name and a different face, but it's just like so I remember I said to this new guy, we were talking about a date, right? And I said to him, okay, so you decide. And when I sent this message, I was like, my hands were shaking, right? Because I would always be the person who would be like a chauffeur of the relationship, deciding
Mm-hmm.
everything, whatever. And he was like, okay, I'll pick you up on Saturday at 7. And like my jaw just went like I hit the floor, I kid you not, right? And it would like I think there is a direct correlation between getting rid of clutter, because it's not really about the clutter, it's again about that self-trust, right? Can I hold my own? Can I hold my boundary? How can I protect my energy, right? That's the big one here
Mm-hmm.
as well. um and usually not even mentioning how much money I saved. Huge shopaholic. um like I don't rarely buy stuff right now. I mean, I rarely buy stuff, I should probably phrase it correctly. um it's just I don't feel the need to, because I don't feel the need to emulate anyone or feel cool or cooler because I have, I don't know, the Stanley Cup, right? It, to me, those
Mm-hmm.
things are right now. And it took me a bit of time to reach this point where I'm happy with the things that I have. And genuinely, if I need to buy something, it's because I want it, not because I feel like I'll be cool or cooler or I'll have more friends if I have, um, I don't know, this new jacket or whatever, because that's usually why we buy
Yeah.
things, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I guess you could
Yeah.
say that this conversation is really one about freedom and not necessarily
Mm,
organization, freedom in terms of every area of your life. And I know that I have personally witnessed what this type of letting go can do for me in my life. And I would say that I've actually noticed probably similar things to what your journey has, but maybe never really correlated it to the letting go of stuff. And I love that perspective. So, for the woman who is sitting there, who is wondering, how do I get rid of this stuff? Or is maybe shaming herself or feeling overwhelmed about the state of her home, where does she start? Where should she begin? What is the first thing that you would recommend that she do in order to get to a better place?
Okay, this is my favorite thing, because my answer is never as straightforward as people expect. Uh, so here's the thing, right? If you feel, as a listener, if you feel like, okay, but where do I start? I feel so much shame. I hate myself. I hate my situation. All of that, right? First of all, take a deep breath, right? I promise you that there is like probably a million people in the world, if not more, who are exactly where you are. So you're not alone. And that's a big one, right? And you know, two things when it comes to decluttering, two things is, how can you make yourself feel better? Always start with this, because you cannot make decisions that you want to regret later if you are hating you, if you are like in the worst mood possible, right? Why would you want to
Mm,
declutter or do anything if you are like in the worst mood possible? Play the song, go for a walk, do those little things, for spend time with the kids, the dogs, the pets, whatever. Do that for a little bit, right? And when it comes to decluttering, getting rid of things, like technically, I would always recommend to start with the thing that we all have in our home, which is trash. We have so much
mm,
trash in our homes that it's crazy. Or even like, go through all of the rooms, not in one go. I really recommend 10 minutes, because it's short enough to actually see some progress, to do things, and
mm-hmm.
also for nervous system not to get like to catch up and go like, oh no, she's trying to change her life, let's make her stop, right? So pump yourself up, go to those 10 minutes and try just to have a look like how much trash can you get rid of. By trash or trash like items, I mean the things that it's like flick of the wrist, like, oh yeah, empty bottle, oh yeah, the candy wrapper. Oh yeah, the broken whatever, right? Um, and then from there, I guarantee that's going to be probably like in dozens of bags. Maybe less. Like obviously it depends on each home individually, but we have more trash or trash like items in our home than we think we do. And then from there, I would really just have a look at, what else is easy, right? Just the easiest
Mm-hmm.
things. Things that are just like, oh, yeah, I hate this hand cream. Why do I still have this? Trash, right? Or whatever, like whatever
Yeah.
you can do. If you can okay. I'm gonna say something super controversial. When I started decluttering, I threw everything away. Whether it was recyclable or non-recyclable, I didn't give a shit. Why? Because
Mm-hmm.
I was upset. I hated myself. My self-esteem was in the gutter. I just needed to breathe. I needed this. Do I recycle now? Yeah, I even collect like cold water. Before you go take a shower, there's always like cold water running first, right? I collect
Yeah.
this water now and I like dump it in my garden, right? That's like I went from throwing everything away to like really caring. It's not that I didn't care before, but I cared about myself and my well-being more than few of those random items that I threw away, and everything is going to end up in the landfill anyway. That's the harsh
Mm-hmm.
truth, right? We can recycle or
Absolutely.
upcycle the shit out of things, but they are going to end up most of the time, like 90% in the landfill. So don't buy. Stop fucking buying.
Moral of the story, but no, I think it was like also part of you like creating space to care and collect other things, right? Because I know like back at the beginning of my very unhealed, very traumatized, very unregulated journey, we're talking like 13 plus years ago, I didn't have space for
Mm.
anything. It was quick convenience foods. It was doom scrolling on social media. It was never taking care of myself in any form. And I absolutely did not care or take care of anything else in the world or my community when I was in that state either. So I completely get it. And I also do agree on the recycling notion. It honestly depends what part of the world you are in, depending on what is even available for recycling collection. But having been somebody who travels 6 months of the year, you see the state of the landfills in third world countries.
Yeah.
And it really does open your eyes to those type of things and recognizing that no matter how hard you try, the impact is probably not going to make a difference at the end of the day. And it's sad to say, but it is the truth. And I believe in same thing, buying less myself and utilizing things like thrift stores when it's possible. But it really just depends
Yeah.
on where you're at and what options you can actually make. So I very much
Yeah.
feel in the same boat.
You know what? If I can offer like one more perspective shift to some people,
Yeah.
who are like, oh my gosh, I need to recycle, right? Sometimes what that does, again, this is the nervous system response, right? This is avoidance, right? But also being anal about recycling or upcycling every single thing while simultaneously there is a Amazon delivery every day at your doorstep. Like, what's worse? What's worse,
Yeah.
right? Answer this question for yourself, and then you'll find all the answers that you need, right? Um, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we start to pay attention to what we're consciously consuming, it really does make a difference. And not just like in terms of the stuff, but also financially. I feel that a lot of people will probably recognize that they have an extra 20, 50, 100, couple $100 a month that suddenly appear once you start to pay attention to your purchases and whether or not you actually need some things.
Yeah. Do you know how much it costs to be stuck in clutter? It's roughly $6,000 a year that we waste by drowning in clutter, having all that clutter. Roughly
Wow.
$6,000. What could
That's
you do with this money?
insane.
Could you go on a dream vacation? And now you say like you don't have money, you cannot go on vacation, right? A lot of people say that. Maybe you can, I don't know, invest in something that you've always dreamt of having, or upgrade your car or something. $6,000.
Yeah.
That's like storage units, buying duplicate items, buying all those containers, all those like storage things, all of that statistically $6,000 a year. I'd rather
Wow.
have that in my bank account.
Yeah, no doubt. Me too. That's a lot of traveling money.
Yeah, I'm going to
Amazing.
Thailand next month. I'm going to Thailand next month for a month, and that's $6,000, right? It would just be perfect. Yeah.
Absolutely, it would. I love that. Thank you for sharing that piece. Now, I have one last question that I love to ask all of the guests on my podcast, and that is, what does the word regulate mean to you?
Regulate means calm down, sit down, and breathe, and be present with my breath, with myself, and give myself, most importantly, give myself permission to slow down, to be okay with maybe not doing anything,
Mm,
and just be
yeah.
present.
I think a lot of
Yeah.
us need to learn how to be okay with slowing down. It is an epidemic of its own right now, is that hustle culture. And there's one thing that I can de-influence people on, is subscribing to that energy. I really want people to recognize that there's a better way of being and living out there. And I think our conversation today really hit the nail on the head from a different perspective. So I love that.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes, for sure.
for our listeners who maybe want to get in contact with you, they want to learn more, maybe they want to work with you, where is the best place for them to find you?
I'm on Instagram, love Instagram, under Dorota Kuldo Decluttering. That's DOROTAKULDO Decluttering, double T. I'm also on Facebook under Dorota Kuldo as well. Those two platforms are like my favorite ones to use. So come along, follow me. And yeah, I'm super excited to have you in my world.
Amazing. I will make sure to include all of those links in the show notes below as well, so that if anybody wants to just click and find it easily, it's going to be available to them there. But Dorota, thank you so much for coming on today. I loved our conversation, and I think our listeners are going to get some really good, juicy bits out of this. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
You are so welcome. And a big thank you out to our listeners. We appreciate you listening to this episode. And if you loved what you heard, we'd be so honored if you drop below and leave a review. And we look forward to connecting with you very soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Go Regulate Yourself podcast. If you felt called out in the best way, I would be so honored if you drop below and leave a review, or share this with a friend who needs to hear it too. And remember, regulate yourself before you wreck yourself. I'll catch you in the next episode. Mwah.